Imagine this, you're going through one of the toughest phases of your life. You're hurting inside, your heart is heavy, and you reach out to people you once trusted, expecting them to be there for you. But instead, you find silence, calls unanswered, messages ignored, and your presence suddenly invisible. At that moment, it feels like the world has turned its back on you. And you can't help but ask, why do people ignore me when I need them the most? Let me share something with you. People often respond not based on your need, but based on their capacity. Some people simply don't know how to handle pain, yours or even their own. So when you reach out, it's not that your pain is unimportant, it's that they don't have the strength to hold it. Just like a weak tree cannot carry the weight of a heavy climber plant, some people are too fragile to carry your struggles. It's also possible that life has taught them to guard their own energy so tightly that when someone comes with genuine need, they retreat in fear. And yes, sometimes it is painful to realize that those you cared for, those you stood by, may not show up for you. But here is the truth: people are mirrors, not anchors. They reflect back to you what they can, but they cannot always hold you steady when the storm hits. That's why you should never measure your worth by who shows up for you in your darkest hour. Your value does not decrease just because someone fails to recognize it. Think about it. When the night sky is filled with stars, it looks beautiful. But when the sun rises, those stars vanish. Did the stars lose their value? No, they are still shining, but the sun simply outshines them. In the same way, your worth does not disappear just because others cannot see it at a certain moment. So what should you do when people ignore you? Instead of drowning in self-pity, see it as life's way of redirecting you. Sometimes the silence of people pushes you towards the voice of God or the voice within yourself. Sometimes rejection is actually protection. You are being guided to discover that strength you never thought you had. You are being shown that peace and confidence do not come from the approval of others, but from the acceptance of yourself. Remember this: the right people, the ones meant for your journey, they will never make you beg for attention. You won't have to chase them, convince them, or prove your value. They will see you, they will hear you, and they will stand by you, not just in moments of joy, but in your moments of silence. Until then, let the ones who ignore you go. Don't carry the weight of their absence. Carry the light of your own presence. Life is too precious to waste on questions like, why don't they see me? Instead ask, what can I see in myself today that I was blind to before? Because when you finally stop seeking validation from the wrong places, you start living in the right spaces. Spaces of growth, strength, and unshakable peace. And when you rise from this place, you won't be bitter. You won't be broken. You'll be wiser. You'll be stronger. And you'll be free. When you go through those low phases in life, when your heart feels heavy and your world seems to crumble, your first instinct is to reach out. You want to talk, to be heard, to feel that someone is standing beside you. Maybe you dial a number, maybe you send a message. Maybe you drop subtle hints in the hope that someone close will pick them up. But then there's silence. That silence feels louder than thunder. It makes you wonder, why is no one responding? Why am I being ignored when I need them the most? The human mind begins to question its own worth in such moments. Am I not important? Did I not mean enough? Why do they not see my pain? These questions don't just stay on the surface. They cut deep into the soul. But here's the reality. When people ignore you, it often has less to do with you and more to do with their own capacity. Not everyone is strong enough to handle someone else's storm. Think about it. If you give a fragile glass vessel boiling water, what happens? It cracks. Not because the water is wrong, but because the vessel wasn't built to hold that kind of heat. Similarly, some people simply are not built to carry the weight of your pain. It doesn't mean your pain is invalid. It doesn't mean you're asking too much. It just means that their vessel is too fragile for the intensity of what you're going through. We often expect people to respond based on our need. I need them, so they should be here. But people respond not based on your need, but based on their ability. Just like someone drowning cannot save another drowning person, those who haven't learned how to process their own struggles will find it nearly impossible to carry yours. Sometimes, when you cry out for help, it triggers their own buried wounds, and instead of offering support, they retreat into silence. This is where many of us make the mistake of equating silence with rejection or absence with unimportance. But that's not always the case. Silence is often a sign of incapacity, not indifference. For example, imagine a child lifting a heavy bag. If the child drops the bag, it's not because the bag has no value, but because it was simply too heavy for the child to carry. In the same way, your struggles are not without value. They are not meaningless. It's just that some people do not have the emotional muscles to lift them. But here is where it gets interesting. When you face that silence, when you feel ignored, your mind starts to whisper dangerous things. Maybe I don't matter. Maybe I'm not lovable. Maybe no one cares. That's the trap. That's the lie. Your value is not determined by who shows up for you or who doesn't. If you let other people's capacity define your worth, you will live your entire life in chains. Let me give you another perspective. Imagine you have a phone with a low battery. The phone starts shutting down apps, reducing brightness, and limiting performance. Does that mean the apps are useless? Does it mean the content on the phone has no value? No, it's just that the battery is too low to sustain the operations. In the same way, when people ignore you, it's not always a reflection of your importance. It's simply a sign that their emotional battery is low. They cannot sustain your needs because they're barely sustaining their own. Now, if we look at this truth deeply, it changes everything. Instead of asking, why don't they care? You start to see the situation with compassion. Maybe they cannot carry what I'm asking them to carry. This shift protects your heart from unnecessary bitterness. It saves you from drowning in resentment. It allows you to see the reality. People are not perfect saviors. They are flawed beings just like you, with limitations, fears, and weaknesses. But here comes the challenge. When people ignore you, it still hurts, and it's natural. Because you expected love, you expected care, you expected presence. So how do you heal? You heal by reminding yourself that your worth was never meant to be proven by who answers your call. Think about the sun. Every morning, whether people watch the sunrise or not, the sun still rises. Whether people acknowledge its light or not, the sun still shines. The sun does not wait for applause to validate its existence. In the same way, you cannot let the presence or absence of people define whether you are valuable or not. People's capacity is not your measure. Their silence is not your identity. Their absence is not your destiny. You are not unworthy just because someone else is unavailable. In fact, moments when people ignore you can become the greatest opportunity for you to turn inward and realize your own strength. There is a beautiful paradox in life. Sometimes, the silence of others becomes the birthplace of your own inner voice. Sometimes, being ignored by the world teaches you to listen to yourself more deeply. When you don't get the external validation you crave, you begin to discover the internal validation you truly need. You begin to see that your life is not meant to be dependent on the shifting moods of people around you. Your life is meant to be rooted in something deeper, more stable, more permanent. Ask yourself this: have you ever ignored someone else without meaning to? Maybe you were so caught up in your own struggles that you didn't notice their call for help. Maybe you weren't equipped to handle their pain. When you realize that, you understand that people's absence in your time of need is not always about neglect. It's often about capacity. This realization brings peace. It softens your heart instead of hardening it. It helps you release the bitterness and embrace understanding. Let me give you one more image. If you plant a seed in dry soil, will it grow? Probably not. Does that mean the seed has no life in it? No. It just means the soil was not fertile enough. Your pain, your struggle, your story. It is the seed. Some people are simply not the fertile ground where your seed can take root. Don't confuse infertile soil with a dead seed. Your seed is alive, it just needs the right soil. In the same way, your worth is alive, regardless of who acknowledges it or not. So when you feel ignored, remind yourself it's not about you being unworthy, it's about others being unready. When people turn away, it's often their fear, their weakness, their limitations, not your lack of value. Never let someone else's inability define your identity. Your pain is real, your story matters, and your worth remains untouchable. And here's the final takeaway: stop expecting everyone to carry your struggles. Not all are meant to. Some people are just passing clouds in your life. They may cover your light for a while, but they cannot take your light away. Your light remains. Your worth remains. And when the right people come, the ones strong enough, grounded enough, compassionate enough, you won't have to beg them to notice. They will show up naturally, consistently, and wholeheartedly. Until then, let the silence of others lead you to the strength within yourself. Because sometimes, when people ignore you, it's not the world abandoning you, it's life redirecting you back to yourself, back to God, back to the realization that you were never alone in the first place. There will be times in life when you feel invisible, times when you speak and no one listens, when you try to share your heart and it's brushed aside, when you stand in need and people walk past you as if you don't exist. And in those moments, the temptation is strong to believe that your value has somehow diminished. It's so easy to think, maybe I'm not important, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I don't matter anymore. But the truth is, your worth is never defined by who notices you and who doesn't. Think about the stars in the night sky. When darkness falls, the stars twinkle, they shine, and everyone marvels at their beauty. But as soon as the sun rises, the stars disappear from our view. Do they stop existing? Do they lose their brilliance? Absolutely not. The stars are still shining in the vastness of space, just as brightly as before. It's only our perspective that changes, because the sun's presence outshines them. In the same way, when people fail to see your value, it doesn't mean you've lost it. Their perspective is limited, not your worth. One of the greatest mistakes we make as human beings is tying our self-worth to people's acknowledgement. When they praise us, we feel valuable. When they ignore us, we feel small. But life teaches us again and again that worth cannot come from applause, attention, or recognition. Those things are temporary. They fluctuate like the weather. Today people are with you, tomorrow they move on. Today they see you, tomorrow they're distracted. If your value depends on their recognition, your life will forever be unstable. Imagine $100 bill. Whether it's crisp and new or crumpled and dirty, it still holds the same value. You can drop it on the floor, step on it, crush it, but when you pick it back up, it's still worth $100. It doesn't lose its value because of the way it's treated. You are the same. You might be overlooked, ignored, even mistreated, but your value remains untouched. It is not in the hands of others to decide who you are. Yet, many people spend their lives begging for validation. They bend themselves out of shape just to fit into someone else's perception. They chase attention as if it were oxygen. And when that attention disappears, they suffocate. But let me remind you, real oxygen is not given by people, it's given by God. Your breath, your life, your essence, these are not gifts from society. They are divine. And because they are divine, they cannot be diminished by human neglect. Sometimes, the reason people fail to recognize your worth is because they are too consumed by their own struggles. A person drowning in the ocean cannot admire the beauty of a bird flying above the waves. Their eyes are locked on survival. In the same way, when people are trapped in their own storms, they may not see your light. But does the bird stop flying just because the drowning person didn't notice? No. And you must not stop shining just because someone else didn't applaud. There's another reason too. People often take for granted what is always available. When you are consistent, when you always show up, when you always give, people get used to your presence. They stop appreciating it, not because it lacks value, but because it has become familiar. Think about air. We breathe every second, but how often do we thank air for being there? Almost never. Only when air is taken away, when someone struggles to breathe, do we suddenly realize how precious it is. Many people will only realize your worth in your absence. And sometimes, life allows you to be ignored so that later, your absence can teach the lesson your presence could not. But here's the point: you don't have to wait for people to validate you. The sooner you stop tying your value to others, the freer you will be. You won't be crushed when ignored, you won't be desperate when overlooked, and you won't be enslaved to the approval of those who are too distracted to see you clearly. Instead, you'll live rooted in the truth that your worth comes from within, from the very fact that you exist, from the unique gift of life that flows through you. Think about diamonds. Do you know where they're formed? Deep underground, under extreme pressure, hidden away from human eyes. No one claps for the diamond while it's forming. No one celebrates it while it's buried. For years it lies in silence, unnoticed, ignored. But then, when the right time comes, it is discovered, polished, and its brilliance is revealed to the world. Did the diamond only become valuable when people found it? No, it was valuable all along. It just wasn't recognized. That is your story too. You don't need recognition to be precious. Your worth is already there, waiting to be discovered, waiting to shine when the right time and place arrive. The pain of being ignored is real, and I will not deny it. But pain can also be a teacher. It teaches you where you've been placing your trust. It shows you how much of your identity has been tied to others' responses. And it gives you the chance to shift your foundation. If people ignoring you makes you feel worthless, then maybe your worth has been sitting in the wrong hands. Reclaim it. Take it back. Anchor it in yourself, in your values, in your purpose, in your connection to something higher than human opinion. Ask yourself, do trees stop growing because no one is clapping for them? Do rivers stop flowing because no one is watching? Do flowers stop blooming because no one compliments them? No. They continue day after day, fulfilling their purpose, living out their design, whether or not anyone notices. And in the same way, you must continue. Your life's purpose is not to be noticed, it's to be lived. Not to be approved, but to be fulfilled. You may be ignored by many, but you are not invisible to the one who created you. The universe knows your value, even when people don't. God knows your worth, even when others overlook it. And if you can remember this, the sting of being ignored loses its power. Suddenly, you realize that silence from others is not the end of your story. It's just a pause, a moment that invites you to ground yourself deeper in who you truly are. Never forget this: people can overlook you, but they cannot define you. They can ignore your presence, but they cannot erase your purpose. They can turn away from you, but they cannot diminish the light that shines from within you. That light, that worth, that value, it remains constant, like the stars in the sky, whether anyone notices it or not. So, the next time you feel ignored, remind yourself of the stars. Remember the diamond underground. Remember the $100 bill unshaken by being crumpled. And then remind yourself, I am still valuable, still worthy, still enough. I don't need to be seen to shine. I don't need to be validated to matter. My worth is mine, unchanging, untouchable. And once you truly believe this, you will walk differently. You will no longer beg for attention. You will no longer chase people who cannot see you. Instead, you will live with quiet confidence, knowing that your value is permanent, regardless of who acknowledges it. And in that confidence, you will find freedom, peace, and strength. There are moments in life when you pour your heart into others, when you stand by them, when you give your time, energy, and care, believing that in your hour of need, they will be there for you too. But then, when life shakes you, when you're looking for support, you find silence. That silence feels like betrayal. It makes you wonder, why am I being rejected when I need them most? Why is everyone turning away? It's painful, yes. But if you can see it through a different lens, you will realize that rejection is often not the end. It is redirection. Sometimes life closes one door to lead you toward another. You may not see it immediately, but every silence, every unanswered call, every ignored message is a sign that you are being guided somewhere else. Just as a GPS reroutes you when you miss a turn, life reroutes you when people fail to respond. What feels like rejection is often life whispering, not here, not them, not now. Look deeper. Look within. Think of the times when you didn't get the job you wanted, or the relationship you begged to hold on to, or the friend you counted on who suddenly disappeared. At first, it felt like a painful rejection. You cried, you questioned, you fought with yourself. But later, when you found a better path, a healthier connection, or a more fulfilling opportunity, you looked back and said, if that door hadn't closed, I wouldn't be here today. In hindsight, rejection becomes clarity. In the moment, it feels like destruction. But eventually, it reveals itself as redirection. When people ignore you, it forces you to look inward. Because if everyone was always available, always answering, always ready, you would never discover the strength hidden within you. Their silence pushes you toward your own voice. Their absence pushes you toward God's presence. Their rejection becomes the reason you turn inward and upward instead of outward. And in that turning, you discover something priceless. Your independence, your resilience, your inner power. Have you noticed how a baby bird learns to fly? The mother pushes it out of the nest. From the outside, it looks cruel. Why would a mother reject her baby, pushing it into the air where it might fall? But what looks like rejection is actually redirection. The bird is being redirected toward its true nature, to fly. Without that push, without that moment of being left alone, the bird would never spread its wings. In the same way, when people step away from you, life may be pushing you into your wings. It's not cruelty, it's training. We all long for support, for someone to hold us when we're falling. But sometimes, not being held teaches you how to stand. Not being heard teaches you how to listen to yourself. Not being understood teaches you how to embrace your uniqueness. Rejection, in its rawest form, feels like abandonment. But when you zoom out, it reveals itself as a redirection to your destiny. Think of Thomas Edison, who faced countless rejections in his experiments. Each failed attempt seemed like the world was ignoring his effort. But in reality, every rejection of his idea was redirecting him closer to success. He didn't see it as the end, he saw it as guidance. He once said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. That's the power of perspective. When others turn away, when attempts don't succeed, when silence greets your need, you can see it as rejection or you can see it as redirection. One breaks you, the other builds you. And sometimes, rejection protects you. Think about this carefully. If every person you wanted stayed, if every opportunity you chased opened up, if every door you knocked on welcomed you, you would be burdened with things that are not meant for you. Some people walking away are saving you from future pain. Some doors closing are protecting you from storms you don't even see yet. When you trust this, rejection no longer feels like failure. It feels like divine protection. There's a beautiful truth hidden in these moments. When you feel ignored, you also feel forced to face yourself. And often, that's exactly what you've been avoiding. Many of us stay busy seeking validation from others, so we don't have to confront our own reflection. But rejection strips away those distractions. It puts you face to face with yourself, asking, who am I without their approval? Who am I without their presence? And that question, though uncomfortable, is where real growth begins. Imagine a sculptor chipping away at a block of marble. Every strike looks like destruction. Every piece falling off looks like loss. But in truth, every chip, every strike is shaping a masterpiece. In the same way, every rejection chips away at your illusions, at your dependencies, at your false identities so that your true self can emerge. What feels like loss is often shaping. What feels like rejection is often creation. Life is full of people and opportunities that look good but are not good for you. Sometimes the only way you'll stay away from them is if you're pushed away. That's why people ignoring you can be a hidden blessing. Because if they had been there, maybe you would have clung to them longer than you should. Maybe you would have stayed small, stayed dependent, stayed blind. Their absence is painful, but it's also freeing. It breaks chains you didn't even know you had. So the next time someone ignores you, resist the urge to say, "I'm not enough." Instead, remind yourself, this is not rejection, it's redirection. Instead of asking, "Why did they walk away?" ask, "Where am I being led now?" Instead of seeing their silence as abandonment, see it as guidance. Maybe life is telling you it's time to rely less on people and more on God. Maybe life is telling you it's time to discover new paths, new voices, new strength. Because here's the deeper truth: people are temporary, but your purpose is eternal. People may turn away, but your journey continues. Their rejection does not halt your story, it reroutes it. And often the reroute leads to places more beautiful than you ever imagined. You see, if everyone always supported you, you would never grow wings. If every door always opened, you would never learn patience. If